A logo, Perkins School for the Blind. This video includes scenes of these individuals at home, at work, and in their community. In an office, a woman types at a computer.
My name is Kathy Martinez, and I work for Wells Fargo Bank as the lead for the disability segment. I was born blind, and I have a blind sister who's 2 years younger than me. Giant Latino family, very big. Peggy and I are the two middle of 6 children. We don't really know why we're blind. When we were young, they did lots of research on our vision. They couldn't figure out anything, so we just decided, we got to move on and live our lives as blind people.
Kathy holds a potted plant under a kitchen faucet.
I think I was very lucky because I had parents that expected a lot of me, the type of parents that, didn't want to see Peggy and I overprotected, and they really allowed us to have so many different opportunities. So that meant that my brothers and sisters did that, right? I really believe that attitude is caught, not taught.
She touches her smartphone screen.
AC Transit next bus and trip planner. To Montclair. Delano Ave and Santa Fe Ave. Prediction. Arriving in 5 minutes.
My father made us mow the lawn. I tried to get out of it by saying I was blind, and he said, well, then you're just going to have to take off your shoes and feel the grass.
Near a busy intersection, Kathy waits at a bus stop wearing earbuds.
We grew up with, kids kind of kicking our butts in a way, but also, with the expectation that we would be part of their world instead of in a different, special, separate world.
Kathy holds up a dollar bill and studies it closely.
When I walked into kindergarten, I met 20 kids that had no idea who the heck I was. They had never dealt with a blind person. So for the first week, it was a little awkward. They kind of asked a million questions, and then they got over it. And the thing that always amazes me about that experience is that they did not have low expectations. They really included me. They figured out ways that I could play, I could play foursquare, even tetherball. They would tell me to duck. And like when it was time to play baseball, all through elementary school, they would grab me to run the bases. They just tried to integrate me the best way they could. I did not want to live the rest of my life on disability benefits. So as a kid, I always figured out ways to work. I just loved to work, and I loved to earn money.
In the subway, Kathy runs her cane over a ridged mat.
After I graduated from high school, my rehabilitation counselor placed me in a lock factory. I started at minimum wage, and I was a punch press operator.
A sleek silver train glides to a stop.
I loved it because if you worked really hard, you could make extra incentive money, so I loved that. I loved trying to beat my last paycheck. But I realized I don't want to make doorknobs for the rest of my life. I decided I wanted to go to college, and I was told by my counselor at the time that the Department of Rehab had closed my case, and that because they had already given me a job, and so they wouldn't pay for college. So it took me 13 years to graduate from college because I had to work part-time.
Kathy rides the train.
I was pretty old by the time I graduated, and I had already started working for the World Institute on Disability, where I started out as kind of a project assistant. I'd been pretty active in the disability rights movement, but at that time I got involved in international work. The World Institute on Disability got contracts from USAID, the State Department. I ultimately had some private consulting work with the UN. 2002, I guess, I started a project called Proyecto Visión, which was an employment project for Latinos with disabilities. The 5 years before I came to Wells Fargo, I was an assistant secretary for the Department of Labor, and I worked on employment projects for people with disabilities.
A photo with Barack Obama.
I've worked for both the Republicans and the Democrats. People ask why, and my answer is because disability is an across-the-aisle issue. People with disabilities are probably the only community that want to pay taxes. We're never taught how to manage our money because nobody ever thinks we're going to work.
She tips a cashier.
When you're a disabled person, the world is not built for you. And so you have to be very strategic. You have to be innovative. You have to figure out other ways to do things. And I think it's a huge benefit to a company. I was talking to somebody from another company, and they were saying, oh my gosh, it's such a pain. We have to put things into accessible format. And I said, you know what, that's what they said when women senators demanded that the government build women's bathrooms in the Senate. That's what happens when people change the status quo. It happened with African Americans, it happened with women, it's happening with people from the LGBT community. I think it's fair to say that no matter how high up the ladder we go, we still have to deal with people's reactions every single day, good and bad. Like, today, somebody just stepped up and helped me with my coffee. I don't even know who she was. I think she worked at the place. When I'm with my partner at a restaurant, even though I'm paying the bill, they'll give her the check. They're often incredulous. You're a senior vice president at Wells Fargo. Is this a charity position? When they look at me, they think of how they would survive as a blind person. I often have to explain that no, I'm held to the same standards as everybody else. And they don't just give SVP positions away.
Kathy rides a city bus.
You know, I don't have like a status symbol like a Porsche. Most SVPs probably don't take the bus because they don't have to. Hopefully, you know, in 5 to 10 years, there'll be 10 times the number of us in these types of positions, so it's not so rare.
With her cane extended ahead of her, Kathy strides along a brick sidewalk lined with flowers.